Bet on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the Designer back at it again. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. On today's episode, is Kliff Kingsbury a top candidate for the Chicago Bears head coaching job? We'll have that conversation and why it's not a bad thing that Jeremy Fowler believes that the Bears will 100% interview him. Does Aaron Glenn actually fit this Bears model a little bit more than Ben Johnson does? And is that something that you realistically want to see? And of course, everybody's losing their mind over the DJ Moore vacation comments. I'm not flipping a table over it. All that and more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. As always, Chicago, love you guys, man. Let's jump into the show. Let's start it off with the Kingsbury conversation because Jeremy Fowler of ESPN dropped the news that he 100% believes that the Chicago Bears will be interviewing Kliff Kingsbury for the head coaching job. Now, I'm not going to say I'm on two sides of this, but I see this in two different ways, right? Number one is I don't want Kliff Kingsbury as the next head coach of the Chicago Bears. I think that would be a disaster. I'm not a fan of his style of offense. I think that it gets figured out fairly often. And for the most part, if we're being honest about all of this, Kliff Kingsbury has failed at every single stop where he has been a head coach. In college, he did not win. Somehow he got a job in the NFL. In the NFL, he did not win. One winning season out of 4 does not get me the, oh my God, here we go, let's do this, and make me feel like all of a sudden he's going to be a different guy. I understand he's got head coaching experience in the NFL. I understand that he's got the history, but I just think that he's a guy that at a certain point, teams kind of figure out what he wants to do. They figure out why his offense is innovative, and they go out there and they go, all right, well, this is how we're going to stop this heading into next week. Let's see if you can stop our adjustment to it. And there's usually not an adjustment back. Now, we've seen that kind of this year with some of the tougher teams that Washington has had to go up against, but Washington has had a little bit of an easier schedule throughout a good chunk of these games here, and it has worked out in their favor that, yes, they can still go out there and dominate the bad teams. I'm not saying that he's doing a bad job with Jaden Daniels over there. I think he's doing a phenomenal job. I think he's done a great job developing that young man. I just don't think that's the kind of coach that we want here, as when you talk about that leader of men guy in a head coaching capacity. Remember, and I get it, the leader of men conversation is stupid, but it's what the Bears have said they want. I'm going off of their words, not mine. But here's the thing at the end of the day. We know how different it is being a play caller versus being the main guy at the top, the guy that does have to go out there and direct the show. And when you look at Matt Eberflus, I still stand by this. I think Matt Eberflus is a good defensive coordinator. I think that he'll get a job somewhere, probably not next season because he's going to be living right off of that money. But I think that Matt Eberflus finds himself a job as a play caller in this NFL again because people like what he does with the defense. I think that Kliff Kingsbury can be an offensive coordinator in this NFL. I don't think that he has what it takes to be a head coach. And for me, I wouldn't want him as the next head coach of the Chicago Bears, especially if I'm going to go with the hot coordinator route. Why not go with the guy who's had the best offense over the last 3 years in Ben Johnson? But with all that being said, I'm not upset that the Bears are reported to be planning to interview Kliff Kingsbury this offseason. And here's my reasoning behind that. I want this Bears team to do something that they didn't do in any of the other previous cycles. I want this Bears team to be a team that they weren't in any of the other previous head coaching cycles when they've been on the market. I want them to be diligent. I want them to leave no rock unturned. And for me, if you're not interviewing the guy who worked with your current starting quarterback in college, then you're not doing your due diligence to really try and go out there and get the best coach available. You're not really doing your due diligence to go out there and try and find out everything that you can about every single candidate that you're going to have available to you for you to be able to go out there and make the right decision at the end of the day. You have to be having conversations with guys like Kliff Kingsbury, because these are the layup interviews. These are the ones where you go, what do you know about Caleb? How would you use him? How would you do this? How could you make this work? These are the ones that, to me, are the obvious interviews that you need to be having. And if they're not having these interviews, to me, you're not really doing your due diligence and making sure that you're not leaving every stone unturned. Now, do I hope that at the end of overturning these stones that Kliff Kingsbury is the guy that you end up with? No. But I do like the fact that this Bears organization is making sure that they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's on this entire process, because realistically speaking, they haven't done that in, I don't know, ever. You know what I mean? Outside of Lovie Smith, who they kind of brought in at last minute, I mean, they really didn't go through the process with Lovey either, if we're being honest. Like, they don't go through this process. This is not who they are. And if they do go through the interview process, something stupid usually comes up. Let's avoid that. Let's not make guys do fake press conferences to see if they're battle tested enough to stand up there. Here's my thing at the end of the day. When I look at the Kingsbury situation, I'm not upset by it one way or the other. I'm not losing my mind by it one way or the other. I don't think that it is I don't think that he is the Bears in the Bears top 3 candidates of guys that he wants to have on, that they want to have on this team. But I also don't believe that you shouldn't talk to him because maybe he's not your top guy. Maybe he bumps somebody off the list as one of those top 3, because you can see that he's changed. You can see that his leadership skills are different. He has grown. Like, if you're not having the interviews, you're not really doing your due diligence to find out everything you can about the candidates out there. And for me, that's why I'm not mad that the Bears are doing this interview. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. Do you like the fact that the Bears are at least interviewing Kliff Kingsbury? Do you want Kliff Kingsbury as the Bears' next head coach? I don't know if I'm that far yet, but I'm at least excited to hear that the Bears are interested in interviewing every option that they could have in front of them. Hey, man, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Appreciate y'all, man, for rocking with your boy on today's episode. Leave a thumbs up as well. Let's keep this thing going, because yesterday we got a chance to talk with Detroit Insider about this Chicago Bears next coaching hire and some of the names that could be available to the Bears. Now, a couple of things that I thought were very interesting in what we pulled out of yesterday's interview. Number one, I thought the fact that when talking about the possibility of Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn going back, Colton Pouncey, who was on the show yesterday, he didn't kind of dismiss the idea that Ben Johnson could go back to the Detroit Lions in this offseason. Remember, he had an opportunity to leave this team last season, and he said, no, I want to get it done. I want to be here. I want to get this done with Dan Campbell. We're so close. I can see the other side, and I think that we can make this happen. Now, with injuries piling up for this Detroit Lions team, and I think this Sunday will be a huge testament to that, right? If the Bears find a way to win this Sunday, you're kind of sitting there looking at this, at least I'm looking at this Detroit team going, oh, this is the beginning of the end for them. There's no way that they're making a Super Bowl run. Are we saying that we could see Ben Johnson heading back with the Detroit Lions possibly for another season, because those opportunities are still going to remain there for a head coaching job moving forward? I think that there's a possibility. I asked Colton Pouncey the question. Colton Pouncey from The Athletic covers the Detroit Lions over there. And he said, yeah, listen, that absolutely could be a situation, because those opportunities are not going to be going away. He's still going to be the guy in charge of one of the top offenses in the NFL moving into next season. Could he wait another year to get into the coaching cycle? I think he absolutely could. And I think that, to me, throws off a lot of what, it adds a different wrinkle into a lot of what the Chicago Bears want to do. If we're being real about this, it seems like, and it feels like, Vrabel and Ben Johnson are the top 2 names that we're hearing. If Vrabel has another job lined up, which it seems like people, I think Orlovsky was talking about, Ohio State seems like an easy walk-in situation for him if he wanted to take that job over. I'd be intrigued to see if that happens, if he wants to leave the NFL and go to college and get on the recruiting trail and stuff like that. But when with the thought of that happening and Ben Johnson maybe looking at the Bears situation and going, I don't know. I don't know if I'm in on that. I don't know if I buy in to what you're selling. I'm going to go back to Detroit. Are you telling me that you don't think it could be a possibility? Because I 100% do. I mean, listen, we assume that the Bears are the prize. And I can't say that with the reported dysfunction we've heard between Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren. I can't say that with how we've seen this front office operate over the last few weeks, right? I can't say that with yet another season coming in, and yeah, you feel like you've got all the pieces in place and you got the coach you wanted and you got the new coaching staff in place, and there's a possibility that if this guy's good, you can move Flus on and promote this guy and blah, blah, blah. You've done everything that you thought you might have needed to do, and it all has turned into the same thing, mush under the boots. To me, if you're having that conversation with Ben Johnson, what's going to stop him from looking at everything that's happening here just so that he can work with Caleb Williams? Well, listen, I'm sure that he has some desire to work with Caleb Williams and probably wants to see what he can do with a young quarterback to develop him along the way and to really be able to make a name for himself. You know, Chicago's the place that can do that. But when people do what Nick Saban warned them to do when you're talking about these coaching candidates, where you go, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you this right now. Do your research. If you do the research, this ain't the jewel. This ain't the gem. This ain't the best place that you can be. Now, I'm not saying that there's a spot you're going to go with more talent, but is there a spot you're going to go with more autonomy? Is there a spot you're going to go with more say-so? Is there a spot you're going to go with more flexibility? Is there a spot you're going to go with more freedom? Because at least from what we're hearing and what we're seeing up at Hallis Hall, it doesn't feel like Chicago is that place. And so what do you do if Ben Johnson is off the market? That's a question that the Bears may have to ask themselves, especially heading into this offseason. There's still some good names out there. Of course, Joe Brady, a name who has been thrown into the mix as well. Brian Flores has been a name that has come up for the Chicago Bears repeatedly. I want to throw one more in there, though, because when the word leader or the phrase leader of men comes up, one, it sounds like nails on a chalkboard when I hear the Bears say that, because it means you haven't been hiring coaches who are leaders of men. But when talking about that guy, Mike Vrabel's name seems to always jump to the top, and you understand why. But I do wonder if Aaron Glenn needs to be a name that we need to throw into that mix as well. When we talked to Colton Pouncey yesterday as well, he brought out the fact that Aaron Glenn is more of that type of guy. He's more of the Dan Campbell type of guy. He's more, and yes, he is calling defenses. Don't know if he would as a head coach, but he's more of the aggressive, in your face, not going to take any nonsense, going to set a standard, not going to let that standard be broken kind of head coach. And I don't know if I want it to happen, but at least based on what the Bears are saying, could that be the kind of head coach that the Bears are looking for? Could you be looking on the wrong side of the football here when you're doing these interviews in the offseason? And listen, for me, I understand everybody keeps going, you have to get a coach who's an offensive-minded coach for Caleb Williams' sake. You have to get a coach who's an offensive-minded coach for the development of Caleb Williams. Here's my thing. You have to get a coach that cares about the offensive side of the football. And what I mean by that is we get defensive coordinators whose mindset is, well, we don't have to be aggressive on offense because defensively we will be able to go out there and get the football back. But if I have a coach who is aggressive on both sides of the ball, if I have a coach who goes for it on fourth down, if I have a coach who's going for it for the 2-point conversions, right, who's trying to push the needle, push the envelope consistently in the game, if I have a coach who cares as much about the offensive side of the football as he does about the defensive side of the football, and he's able to lead the team in the best manner, yeah, he may skew a little bit more defensively than offensively, but we just need coaches that care about the offensive side of the ball. Lovie Smith, to me, was a guy who I think that he wanted the offense to be productive, but he didn't care nearly as much because he knew he had a Super Bowl caliber defense all the time. So we're going to take the football away. That'll be our offense. We'll be able to go out there and score. Just run the ball and don't screw things up. When you look at Mark Trestman coming in, Mark Trestman loved the offensive side of the ball. He's got these schemes. We got these things drawn up. We're going to make this work. And the offense looked like it was working. But your defense was abysmal because you didn't care nearly as much about the defensive side of the ball. You didn't put nearly as much effort into the defensive side of the ball. So for me, the thing that is most important for the Chicago Bears team moving forward is finding somebody who's going to be as aggressive on the offensive side as the defensive side. And I'm talking about aggressive, not just on the field, but aggressive in development, aggressive in getting the job done, aggressive in holding the both sides of the football to a standard, right? When you looked at the defensive side of the ball, you always felt like that standard was there under Matt Eberflus. Meanwhile, Nate Davis gets to take naps on the sideline while the rest of his team is going out there dying trying to make something work. Like, to me, if Ben Johnson's the guy, Ben Johnson's the guy. I'm there for it. But I don't think that you go into this coaching cycle just looking to hire a guy who perfectly fits everything for Caleb Williams, but maybe neglects the other side of the ball, because that's when you start to see, okay, half of your team has a little bit of dissension because you're not putting as much into the team on that side as this side. Maybe they don't have the defensive coordinator that they need to get things done, right? Because now you're going just buddy, because you're always going to go, oh, well, the offense will figure it out. Don't worry about it. My side of the ball will get it right. Don't worry about it. I got it. And I do wonder if Aaron Glenn could be one of those guys. I do wonder if he's the kind of guy that the Bears need to be taking a little bit of a closer look at. Now, if you're going to talk about a guy like that, right, Aaron Glenn, maybe a little bit of a unexperienced Brian Flores in a sense, but I am impressed by the way that he's been able to hold this Lions defense somewhat together until they got to a point where it's just, 18 starters missing on defense. You're going to start to give up some holes. There's going to be gaps in your defensive scheme because now you don't have the talent to go out there and get it done. But for the most part over this time, right, as these injuries have continued to pile up, they have continued to find ways to make it work. And so I do wonder if he's a name that the Bears need to look at a little bit closer. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be down there with you as well. Again, my top three right now, if I'm being honest with you, I'd go number one, Vrabel. I'd go number two, Ben Johnson. I'd probably go number three. I'm not, dog. The intrigue for me of Joe Brady has grown a lot. I'd probably go right now, number three, Joe Brady, for where I sit with this coaching cycle. But the more that I dig in, the more that I try to find out about all these coaches, right? Your opinion changes all the time. And the more you look at Aaron Glenn, it does seem like Aaron Glenn could be a guy that the Chicago Bears could be interested in. Let me know, like I said, in the comments below. I'll be down to talk with you guys as well. Let's finish it off with this, because everybody and their mama had an opinion on DJ Moore's comments yesterday. They had an opinion on DJ Moore saying, I'm thinking about vacation. Ha, 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 ha. And a lot of people have taken the stance that, well, that doesn't sit right with me, because why would you mention that at this point? Why would you be thinking about vacation? And I think that you ignored the question that was asked to him. The question that was asked to DJ Moore had to do with, hey, are you thinking towards anything happening in the offseason with the front office? And his response was, I'm thinking about vacation. And then he chuckles. And then he continues to give a real thought out answer that nobody paid attention to that part of it, because it had nothing to do with the part that you wanted to hone in on and make the narrative moving forward. Listen, I get it. I don't think that DJ Moore has had a phenomenal season this year. I think that he has taken a step back. I think that he has struggled a little bit more with Caleb Williams than most people expected him to. But I also think that people don't really understand DJ Moore's demeanor. He is a kidder. He is very stoic. He is goofy. He is, he's kind of to himself, and he is not worried about what your opinions are on Twitter of his body language. I also think that there's a lot of times where we just ignore the good moments that you have with DJ Moore and Caleb Williams and only bring out the bad moments like it's all on DJ Moore. Listen, and I've said this before. People look at DJ Moore and say, well, he's visibly frustrated on the sideline. Well, guess what? You're visibly frustrated when you're on your way to work about this Bears team. I'm visibly frustrated with this team. Courtney's visibly frustrated with this team. Most of the fans in Chicagoland are visibly frustrated with this team. You know what we don't do for this team? We don't play for them. So if literally my job is not going well, the thing that I get paid millions of dollars to do is not going well, And you tell me, well, you're looking visibly frustrated. No, duh, dummy. I'm the one trying to get it right. I'm the one trying to fix it. And it's so goofy that now anything that this guy says, we have to attack. This is a nothing story. This is as much of a nothing story as Sammy Sosa returning with the Chicago Cubs. Like, oh my God, thank God that Sammy's back. Who cares? Good job. This is a nothing story. And people want to turn it into a something story, and there's nothing for you to turn it into. Guess what's going to happen this offseason? DJ Moore is not going to the playoffs, so he is going to go on vacation. There's probably some planning that has to go into that. Doesn't mean he's not out there at practice. Doesn't mean he's not out there on the field. Doesn't mean he's not giving 100% effort. So let's relax. Everybody breathe. The season's bad enough already without us making up our own things to try and go out there and make into worse things. All right. All right. Glad we had this talk. Sammy Sosa coming back means absolutely nothing. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. It's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Thank you guys for tuning in and showing love. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. We'll be back, of course, Sunday for the post game show. So tap in with us on that right after Peggy and Yurko on the post game show. Be me, Jeff Beller, and Jason McKee. And it's almost over. It's almost over. Got a lot of games real quick. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.